Everyone, we are on day 8 of statistics, and today we're going to be comparing box and whisker plots. So we'll need to be able to identify the 5 main components that make up a box and whisker plot, and then use that information from 2 box and whiskers to compare the data. So number 1 says a sample of 7th and 8th graders were asked how many minutes they spent on the internet last night. The results were recorded in the box and whisker plots below. What is the median for grade 7? So I'm only looking at the box and whisker plot for grade 7, and I just got to figure out what is my median. Well, I know that my median is represented by that second vertical line segment in the box, and whatever number is right below that vertical line segment is going to be our median. So our median for grade 7 is going to be equal to 80. Number 2, same box and whiskers, but now we want to determine the median for grade 8. So I'm simply just looking at the box and whisker for grade 8. And again, I'm identifying that second vertical line segment in the box because that's what tells us our median. And I just need to look at the number right below that second vertical line segment, which is 50. So the median for grade 8 is 50. Okay, number 3 is our first comparison question. Same box and whiskers, but now we want to figure out what we can conclude. And we're going to use the information that we just figured out from questions 1 and 2 to help us answer our question. So I'm going to write that our median for grade 7 was equal to 80, and our median for grade 8 was equal to 50. Now I simply just need to read my answer choices and figure out which one is correct. So choice A says the median amount for grade 7 is greater than the median amount for grade 8. Well, I know that is true because the median for grade 7 was 80 and the median for grade 8 was 50, and 80 is greater than 50. So I know already choice A is my final answer. Okay, number 4 says the amount of money raised by Pizza Sales each week is compared for the 7th and 8th grade classes. What is the IQR for grade 7? So remember from a few days ago, the IQR stands for the interquartile range, and the interquartile range tells us how much our data is spread out. The higher the interquartile range, the more our data is spread out. In order to find the IQR or the interquartile range, we take quartile 3 and we subtract quartile 1. So I'm just figuring out for now the IQR for grade 7. So I need to first identify my first quartile and my third quartile. So my first quartile is equal to 40 and my third quartile is equal to 80. So I simply have to subtract those two numbers. 80 minus 40 is 40. So the IQR for grade 7 was equal to 40. Number 5, now we want to determine the IQR for grade 8. So again, I want to locate first vertical line segment, which tells me my quartile 1, and my third vertical line segment, which tells me my quartile 3. And I simply need to subtract those two values. So the quartile 3 for grade 8 is 100, and quartile 1 for grade 8 is 40. Excuse me, so I had to subtract 100 minus 40, which gives us 60. So the IQR for grade 8 was equivalent to 60. Number 6 says the amount of money raised by Pizza Sales each week is compared for the 7th and 8th grade classes. Max concluded that there was more variability or data spread out in the amount of money fundraised by the 7th grade. Which statement is true? Hint, use your previous answers to help you complete this question. So what we're going to want to look at is the IQR for both 7th and 8th grade. So the IQR for 7th grade was equal to 40, and the IQR for 8th grade was equal to 60. So remember, the higher the IQR, the more data is spread out. So again, what we have to pay close attention to is the fact that Max concluded that there was more variability or more data spread out in the amount of money fundraised by the 7th grade. So we got to read through these answer choices. Choice A says that is invalid because the interquartile range for the 7th grade class is less than the interquartile range for the 8th grade class. And that is absolutely correct because our interquartile range for the 7th grade was equal to 40, and the interquartile range for the 8th grade was equal to 60. Again, the higher the interquartile range, the more the data is spread out. So choice A is our answer. Number 7 says a sample of 7th and 8th grade students were asked how many minutes they spent texting yesterday, The results were recorded in the box and whisker plots below. What is the median for grade 7? So remember, the median in the box and whisker plot is shown by that second vertical line segment in the box, which is also our second quartile. So as always, we just have to look at the number right below that vertical line segment to tell us what our median is. So our median for the 7th grade is going to be equal to 60. Okay, number 8 says, same box and whisker plots, but now we want to determine the median for grade 8. So again, I need to locate that second vertical line segment for my median. And we look at the number right below that vertical line segment to tell us what our median is. For grade 8, our median is equal to 80. Number 9, again, we're going to compare. So we're going to use the information that we just determined in 7 and 8 to answer this question. So I'm just going to write that information next to both of these box and whiskers so I don't have to scroll back. But our median for 7th grade was 60, and our median for the 8th grade was 80. Okay, so I simply just need to read through my answer choices and determine which one is correct. So choice A says the median amount for 7th grade is greater than the median for 8th grade. Well, that's not true because 60 is not greater than 80. So that is not correct. Choice B says the median amount for grade 8 is greater than the median amount for grade 7. Well, that is true because 80 is greater than 60. So right now, my answer choice is choice B. Okay, number 10 says the amount of money raised by fundraising each week is compared for 7th and 8th grade classes. What is the interquartile range for the 7th grade? Okay, so the 7th grade is the first box and whisker plot. Again, to find the interquartile range, we have to take the quartile 3 or the third quartile and subtract the first quartile. So the first quartile is represented by that first vertical line segment, and the third quartile is represented by that third vertical line segment. Then we simply just need to subtract those two values. So the IQR is going to be 59 minus 55. I simply have to subtract those two numbers, and 59 minus 55 gives us 4. So the IQR for grade 7 is 4. Number 11 says, same box and whiskers, but now we want to determine the IQR for the 8th grade. So again, in order to determine IQR, we need to identify our first quartile and our third quartile. Third quartile is 62, and the first quartile is 53. So I simply have to subtract 62 minus 53, which gives us 9. So my interquartile range for grade 8 is equivalent to 9. Number 12 says, again, the amount of money raised by fundraising each week is compared for the 7th and 8th grade classes. What is the range for grade 7? So now remember, the range is different than the interquartile range. The range is just the highest number or the maximum minus the lowest number or the minimum. So we need to identify our minimum and our maximum on a dot plot. Our minimum is shown at the end of the whisker, and our maximum is shown at the end of the other whisker. So the minimum or the lowest number is 53, and my maximum or the highest number is 62. So I simply have to subtract 62 minus 53, which gives us 9. So my range for grade 7 is equal to 9. Number 13, same box and whiskers, but now I need to find the range for the 8th grade. So again, I need to be able to identify the highest number or the maximum and the lowest number or the minimum. So my minimum is shown at the end of that first whisker, and the maximum is shown at the end of the second whisker. And then I simply have to subtract those two numbers. So my maximum or my highest number is equal to 65, and my minimum or my lowest number is equivalent to 52. So I have to subtract 65 minus 52, which gives us 13. So 13 is the range for grade 8. Number 14 says the amount of money raised by fundraising each week is compared for the 7th and 8th grade classes. Mr. Garcia concluded that there was more variability or data spread out in the amount of money raised by the 7th grade class. Which statement is true? It says, hint, use your previous answers to help answer this question. So we need to look at the data from question 10 and 11. That's where we found out the interquartile range. So from those two questions, we determined that the interquartile range for grade 7 was equal to 4, and the interquartile range from grade 8 was equal to 9. Okay, so we just got to read through these answer choices and determine which one is true. So again, the important piece of information in this question that we're determining if that's correct or not is the fact that Mr. Garcia concluded that there was more variability in the amount of money raised by the 7th grade class. So that would mean that the 7th grade class data is more spread out. And again, the higher the interquartile range is, the more the data is spread out. So we need to see if Mr. Garcia is correct. Choice A says it is invalid because the interquartile range for the 7th grade is less than the interquartile range for the 8th grade. And that's absolutely correct. Mr. Garcia is incorrect here because the 7th grade had a smaller interquartile range than the 8th grade. So their data is not more spread out. So choice A is our correct answer. Okay, you guys are going to now complete the Google form that's on our Google Classroom. These questions should help you along in doing so. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to ask.